I want to talk about decolonization and reindigenization and how that relates to healing. So, I was born here in the western US, and my ancestors are from China, from the Guangzhou area, and I grew up speaking Cantonese, and I still speak Cantonese. I don't write, but I consider myself the first generation of my family to be born here. So I don't know, some people say that's second generation. I think it's debatable, but I definitely had a lot of pressure to assimilate into quote-unquote American society from a very young age, from everyone, my parents and, school, of course, and so it was never really incentivized for me to hold on to elements of my culture. And in fact, I think I took it for granted for a long time until I realized how valuable it is to have roots in your home country. And I always felt that I was missing that connection. But I was also too afraid to go back to it because there was so much trauma in my family that I would have to reckon with or face, if I were to really understand who I was. But there's something deeply healing for the body, mind, and the spirit, just to have that, just to even acknowledge that I am Chinese and I'm proud to be Chinese. And just to stop running away from it. So, let's see. Sometime last year, I started visiting some Buddhist temples in the city that I'm in, and connecting with my ancestors and my family members that are still alive. So my Guma, who is my dad's cousin, she's kind of like a grandmother to me. And then talking to my maternal grandfather, who's a farmer in China. Not that many people available, but enough that I could get some good stories written down. And through that process, I became more aware of just exactly how hard it was for my ancestors in China, throughout the Cultural Revolution, throughout famine, poverty, and I began to have a new perspective on sort of the trauma that I experienced as a child of not really having emotional or psychological parenting, because my parents didn't receive that. So, I think that humbled me, and I started to cook Chinese food and to participate in the Lunar New Year activities and Harvest Moon festivals. I even started listening to the Tao Te Ching, which is the sort of the seminal Taoist text by Lao Tzu. Who's like the father of Taoism. I started self-studying Buddhism, Confucianism, learning more, just like deep diving on the history of China. And this year I started receiving acupuncture and Chinese medicine, and yeah, just generally reconnecting. I also think a really important part of decolonization is being rooted, and what I mean by that is not being so easily influenced by colonial processes and systems. So, for example, sort of once I healed my identity as like a person with Chinese roots and reconnected to my ancestral spirituality, I didn't feel like as tied down to colonial labels of, gender and race and like ethnicity and political views and things like that. I just felt a lot more free. It's been a gradual process, but I do feel like knowing your ancestors, knowing your ancestral spirituality really simplifies things and makes you less vulnerable to influences like in the corporate world and people that try to influence you to just control you and to divide your mind, body, and your spirit, because really you're just an integrated person and you're a whole person, just like all of our ancestors were in pre-colonial times. So yeah, it's really helped me find out who I am and sort out the garbage from reality. So I noticed that a lot of us live these caricatured lives, and what healing my connection with my ancestors did was to really expand my being and my self-concept, because we are a culmination of all of our ancestors. So I wanted to share my specific lineage. There's a lot, but I'll just share a little. My mom's side are Han Chinese, which is the dominant ethnic group in China. My dad's side is Hakka, which means guest family in Cantonese, and they lived in the mountains. My mom's side lived in the Pearl River Delta in Guangzhou. They were both very poor, but my mom's side were farmers. They grew lots of veggies and sugar cane. I've been to their village, and it's definitely gotten gentrified a lot, and very polluted now. But my grandfather used to race dragon boats in the river next to his village, and he was really proud of that. My mother would like forage for grass to like burn for like cooking, and she told me they only had like maybe a few eggs per month for protein, and would just eat rice and like vegetables most of the time, and didn't even have a pair of shoes to wear that were matching until she was in her 20s. She ended up moving to the city to be a nanny, and meeting my father not too long after, but my maternal grandfather, so my gongong, he's the dragon boat racer. He's from a neighboring village, and he met my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, my papa, in the village of Setlao, where my mom is from. And she was the manager of a community kitchen there, which I just love the image of seeing that. And they, I guess, signed up for like a National Guard training of some sort. That's what my grandpa told me. There's a lot of changes going on. I think my grandfather had always been a farmer, but because of the changes in the government in China, a lot of things were going on at that time. And my mother was primarily raised by her grandmother, who I've never met, because my papa died when my mom was only a few years old, I think like 4 or 5, maybe 6. And she had to take care of all of her siblings. So yeah, definitely a lot of poverty, famine, war, and just a lot of changes, moving to America. My father was raised by a nanny, and was very poor, living in Hong Kong, and my paternal grandfather was a travel agent and sort of working throughout the day, so neither of my parents really got much parenting. And my father contracted meningitis when he was in Hong Kong. He was going to a missionary school during that time, I believe. So he's definitely more westernized than my mother. And then he ended up getting a scholarship to come study here in the States. And then, on a trip back to Hong Kong is when he met my mother. They're like a matchmaker, mutual friend. Yeah, and my father did a lot to sponsor my mother's family over here. But sadly, he died of cancer when I was still in college. So, yeah, my ancestors have been through a lot. My parents went through a lot. I know that my paternal grandparents sort of, I believe, also met during the revolution when they were sort of having these secret meetings in the mountains, is what my Guma told me, which is really fascinating. It kind of sounded like there was like a revolutionary party that they were part of, and I don't know all the details, but it's really interesting to know about these stories and how smart my ancestors were and how much they navigated and how brave they were. for me to be able to be here. So, yeah.